Welcome back to Into the Paradox, the show where we dive into the stories that sit at the crossroads of history, identity, and culture. I'm your host, Peter Kennedy, and today we're stepping into a world that many of us have only ever glimpsed in headlines or folklore, the vibrant, resilient, and often misunderstood community of the Indian Hijra, what some Western media refer to as ladyboys. To help us navigate this complex tapestry, I'm thrilled to have Dr. Amandeep Singh with us. Amandeep is a cultural anthropologist who has spent the past 15 years living, researching, and advocating for gender-diverse communities across South Asia.
Thank you, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to share some stories that go beyond the stereotypes.
Great. Let's set the stage. For our listeners who might be unfamiliar, could you give us a quick snapshot? What does the term hijra actually mean, and why is it so often mistranslated as ladyboy?
The word hijra comes from the Arabic hijr, meaning to exile or to withdraw. Historically, it denotes a social category rather than a strict gender label. In South Asian societies, hijras are recognized as a third gender, neither male nor female, but a distinct, culturally sanctioned identity. The phrase ladyboy is a colonial-era simplification that tries to fit a nuanced cultural reality into a binary framework. It reduces a centuries-old community to a sensationalist caricature, which is why we, as scholars and allies, push back against that terminology.
Let's travel back in time. When did hijras first appear in the historical record?
The earliest references date to Vedic texts around 1500-500 BCE, where we find mentions of kinnaras and shudras who performed gender-fluid roles and sacred rituals. By the classical period CE 3rd century CE, we see hijras in Buddhist and Jain literature as well. Fast forward to the medieval era, under the Mughal courts, hijras held prestigious positions as court entertainers, advisors, and guardians of royal harems. Emperor Akbar's memoirs even record a Hijra Muhammad as a trusted confidant. During the colonial period, the British Empire tried to regiment Indian identities into its legal frameworks, labeling hijras as eunuchs and criminalizing certain practices under the Criminal Tribes Act of 1871. This was a major turning point that forced many hijras underground, yet also sparked the first organized community networks that persist today.
So they were both marginalized and, at times, highly valued.
Exactly. The paradox lies in that oscillation, celebrated for their spiritual and artistic contributions, yet socially ostracized because they defied the gender binary the colonial state tried to enforce.
Let's talk about the cultural life of hijras today. What are the key rituals that mark community belonging?
The Guru-Shishya system is the backbone of Hijra society. A guru, often an older, respected Hijra, takes on Shishya's disciples. The initiation ceremony, called the Nirvan or Brahmgauri, is a highly ritualized event involving fasting, chants, and the application of turmeric and vermilion. It formally inducts a Shishya into the community and acknowledges their chosen name, Khur, which often replaces their birth name. Beyond that, Hijras play a vital role in blessing ceremonies Mangal Prasad, where they are invited to weddings, births, and housewarmings to bestow prosperity. Their presence is believed to ward off ill fortune, a practice rooted in ancient Hindu beliefs that assign them a sacred liminality.
That's fascinating. In many cultures, gender non-conforming people hold spiritual authority, and it seems the hijras are no exception.
Yes, and many also become Kalpavriksha, the tree of wishes, a metaphor for their role as custodians of community hopes. It's a beautiful poetic layer that often gets lost in sensationalist media coverage.
Fast forward to the 21st century. What does life look like for hijras in modern India?
There's a dual narrative here. On the one hand, we have legal recognition. The 2014 Supreme Court judgment legally recognized transgender persons as a third gender, and the 2019 Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act aimed to provide affirmative action and anti-discrimination measures. On the other hand, economic marginalization remains severe. Many hijras still rely on bigger almsgiving and prasad at ceremonies because formal employment opportunities are limited. Stigma in education, healthcare, and housing persists despite the legal framework. A hopeful development is the rise of Hijra-led NGOs like Sakhi and Mitta that provide vocational training, legal aid, and mental health counseling. In urban centers like Mumbai and Delhi, we're seeing more Hijras entering professions, fashion, performing arts, even tech startups. Yet rural areas still face deep-rooted prejudice.
It sounds like the paradox is still alive. Progress on paper, but everyday challenges remain.
Absolutely. The paradox isn't just historical, it's lived daily. For every Hijra who walks onto a corporate stage, there are dozens still grappling with police harassment or family rejection.
How have hijras been portrayed in popular media, both in India and abroad?
In Indian cinema, early depictions were often comic relief or tragic figures. Think of the effeminate eunuch trope in Maqbool or Margarita with a Straw. More recent films like Aligarh, though about a gay professor, and Super Deluxe Tamil treat gender fluidity with nuance, signifying a shift. Internationally, documentaries such as India's Third Gender and articles in the New York Times have brought attention, but the risk is that the exotic framing persists. The ladyboy label fuels that exoticism. It's crucial for global audiences to recognize hijras as a complex social class, not just a curiosity.
So the responsibility also lies with us as storytellers to avoid sensationalism.
Exactly. When we share these stories, we must center Hijra voices, respect their chosen names, and frame their experiences within broader social structures rather than as isolated oddities.
Before we wrap up, what can listeners do if they want to support Hijra communities or learn more?
Educate yourself. Read scholarly works like Hijra India's Third Gender by Serena Nanda or the recent anthology Beyond the Binary. Donate to reputable NGOs, Sakhi, Mitir, or the Nazariya Collective that provide livelihood training and legal assistance. Amplify Hijra voices on social media. Share content created by Hijra artists, writers, and activists. Advocate for inclusive policies. If you're in a position to influence corporate or institutional diversity programs, push for transgender inclusive language that respects the third gender classification recognized by Indian law. Responsibly, Wani. If you attend a Hijra Prasad ceremony, do so with humility, ask permission, and remember you are a guest in a sacred space.
Amandeep, thank you for taking us on this journey through centuries of history, ritual, struggle, and resilience. You've helped us untangle a paradox that is as much about identity as it is about society's willingness to see beyond binary boxes.
Thank you, Peter. It's been a pleasure, and I hope our conversation sparks curiosity and compassion in every listener.
To our audience, if you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with anyone you think would benefit from hearing these stories. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and see you next time on Into the Paradox.